my loves, welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Kate and I share all things health and wellness to support you on your healing journey. And today I wanted to chat about my personal journey with mental health, specifically anxiety and depression. I want this to just be like a cozy, casual, let's sit down, have a chat type of video. So I have some tea, I have a fuzzy blanket. I'm all nice and cozy. It's been like off and on raining today, so we have all the cozy vibes. I've been wanting to make this video for a while and it just felt like the right time. My hope is that by sharing my experience, it can at least make some of you out there who are going through something similar feel less alone, because when you're like in it and like really going through it, it feels like it's only happening to you and like it's so isolating and it can feel like it's never gonna get any better. And I want you to know that that is not true. You are not alone, you are not crazy, and it does not have to be like this forever. I also want to share some like tips and advice as to how I have overcome my anxiety and depression, because I feel like I'm finally on the other side of it. So I also want to share with you guys like how I've gotten to this point. So grab some tea or a cozy beverage, get comfortable, and let's chat. So where do I begin? It all started the day I was born. No, I'm just kidding. But kind of. I really struggled with depression for most of my life. If I had to pick like a time in my life where I like looking back noticed like, oh, this is when it started, I'd probably say when I was like 8 or 9. And that sounds really sad to say that out loud, but it's true. Like, school was just really hard for me, and I attribute a lot of my depression to that, and just being in that type of environment was just really hard. I was always like a loner, like didn't have many friends and just struggled with like people making fun of me and all of that, like all through end of elementary school, like through high school. So I think that contributed a lot to like low self-esteem and just feeling like no one wanted to be friends with me, that I like wasn't cool or like didn't fit in. And that really takes a toll on a kid. Like looking back, I'm like, yeah, no wonder you were so depressed. Also in 2nd grade, my teacher passed away, and it was really kind of traumatic for myself and all of my classmates at such a young age. We were like 7 or 8, and having to like deal with that. I don't know if that triggered anything, but it certainly didn't help, because I feel like that was right around the same time that I would say I started just like feeling sad all the time. I can laugh about it now, you know, but in the moment it's tough, it's hard. But I think just being confronted with that and like never really fully processing it, or like knowing how to process it, and just holding on to that, in addition to like the low self-esteem and all of that, was just a recipe for depression. Of course, at the time I didn't know what it was. I just thought like, oh, this is just how I am. Like, this is just my personality. I'm just like a super sad kid. And like that was my normal, you know? So then going into middle school, like middle school is hard even if you're not depressed. Just like all the hormonal changes, like the cliques and the bullying and like trying to fit in, trying to figure out who the heck you are at such a young age, like also doing well in school and extracurriculars. Like it is a hard time, and I feel like people don't understand that. Like I really empathize with the youth and the young teenagers, because it is just a hard time. And I feel like middle school is really when the depression was like sinking in as fully part of my identity. Again, it was just like the low self-esteem and the negative self-talk was so bad. Like it was so severe. I didn't even realize how bad it was until I healed from it. But again, at the time I was just like, oh, this is normal to just have these super dark thoughts all the time. It's not normal. And it doesn't mean there's something wrong with you, like you're not broken. It's just there's like something deeper going on that needs to be addressed, and I want to talk about that a little more later. And I would say that anxiety probably started creeping in at this point, just with like perfectionism and trying to be an overachiever and like putting all this pressure on myself to do well and like always overachieve definitely fueled the anxiety. But it was more so depression that I was dealing with at that point. And when you're that age, like you don't know what to do about it. Like I didn't feel like I had any support. I didn't even really know that I needed support, you know? I was just like, oh, this is just life. But I don't know, it's really sad to me that kids and teenagers are not given the tools that they need to support them and are even aware that those tools exist or like that support system exists. Like I didn't know what a therapist was. Like, you know, I didn't even know it was an option for me to like go and talk to someone about my feelings. So instead I just internalized everything. So that's another reason I think it's really important to talk about, so people know that they're not alone and they're not crazy. Like it does happen and there is support out there. So then I would say high school was like pretty much the same. We moved to a new city, which was really hard because I had lived in the same city up until I was like almost 16. And then having to move to a whole new city, whole new state too, make new friends, and all of that was like really hard. And I think I was just always really quiet and shy. So I just kind of like hid in my little shell because it felt safer, and that just like perpetuated the depression. So I feel like high school was pretty much the same as middle school. Oh, I need to go back. Hold on. Backtracking to middle school. This is important. I remember there was a day, I literally vividly remember the day I was in 7th grade leaving social studies in the hallway, and I remember feeling just really down, like hating myself and feeling like there's something wrong with me and oh my gosh, I don't know why I can't fit in, why I'm not like this, why I'm not like everyone else. I decided that day, like this is my origin story. I decided that day, I was like, well, I guess this is just who I am, and I fully accepted my depression as part of my identity. And that definitely informed like the rest of my experience with depression, and we'll talk about that more later. But going into college, I was very hopeful that things would change and that I would just magically like become this new, confident, amazing, popular person and like have all my stuff figured out. Spoiler alert, that did not happen. Long story short, I experienced a lot of religious trauma in college. That could be its own video. So if you guys want to hear more about that, let me know, because I could really do a whole separate video on all of that. And I was heavily involved in like a Christian organization, so we were constantly being told that like, you're not enough, nothing you do is enough, like you're a sinful human, you are not lovable, like you're a piece of shit, basically. That combined with the already existing negative self-esteem, recipe for disaster. Like my depression and my anxiety increased so much when I was in college, and I attribute a lot of that to being in this organization. Then combining that with the pressures of trying to do well in school and, you know, get the straight A's, and again, the overachieving and perfectionism. So this is a point in my life where the anxiety kind of started becoming more of an issue than the depression, with just the pressures of school and all of that. So I started taking, well, let me back up a bit. It was 2017, I think, that summer was kind of when like shit hit the fan, and I realized like, okay, I am not okay. Like that was the first point in my life that I admitted to myself, I need help. I remember texting my mom about it and being like, oh, I've just been like feeling really anxious lately, and she's like, oh, you know, like it'll be okay, whatever. And I was like, no, like actually, like I need help. So that summer I found a therapist, and I did therapy the whole summer, and it definitely helped me. Like that was like the first step in my journey, and just admitting that I needed help And at this point, I was not aware that I was depressed. I wasn't like clinically diagnosed with depression. I was diagnosed with anxiety. So that was kind of just what I focused on. And then my doctor prescribed me anxiety medication. And I took that throughout the rest of college. To be honest, I don't think it helped me at all. Like, I was still super anxious. I was having panic attacks like all the time. And the medication, I remember, like, it just made me feel like a zombie. Like, it just numbed me out. I remember I would take it in the morning right after breakfast, and then by the time I walked to class and got to class, I was like, my head was just like in a fog. I couldn't focus. I couldn't get any work done because I just felt so off, like literally like drugged out. I just felt like a zombie. So I feel like it helped with the like baseline anxiety because it just numbed me to like all emotions, but I was still having panic attacks, which is like the worst part of anxiety. So I was on it for a while, and to be honest, I don't feel like it helped me that much. Again, I feel like anxiety is a deeper issue. So taking medication, it can help temporarily, it can help ease the symptoms, but it's not addressing the root cause of why you have the anxiety in the first place. So until you do that, like, you're gonna keep having anxiety, you're gonna keep having panic attacks. So that was like the majority of my college experience, just a lot of anxiety, which I think a lot of people experience in college, just the pressure of like trying to figure out the rest of your whole life at the age of 18. Like, that's a lot of pressure, and then trying to do well, and you don't want to disappoint your parents, and like you paid a lot of money to be there, so you want to like, you know, do really well and not let anyone down. So that just like compounded the existing anxiety for me. And whew, I'm out of breath. So that's like the backstory. Now we're getting into more present time. After college, I got married. We moved to Savannah. I had a lovely time there. I will say though, I did discover at that point, shortly after I graduated college, that I'm an HSP, which, if you're not familiar, it stands for highly sensitive person. It's like a personality trait. There's been a lot of research done on it. It's a relatively recent like term. I don't want to say diagnosis because it's not like an illness, it's just like a trait that some people have, and that explained a lot to me. It really helped me realize why I'm so sensitive to things. And I literally think how I discovered this is I was just so distraught one day, so upset with like, why am I so sensitive, that I literally just Googled, why am I so sensitive all the time? And then I figured out, oh, being an HSP is a thing, and it basically means you just have like a sensitive nervous system. So you are highly sensitive to like stimulation, external environmental factors, which can contribute to anxiety if you're not like aware of it or don't really know how to navigate it. So that was very helpful in my personal development journey. And then we moved to Orlando, and I started seeing a therapist online, and I love her. She's my current therapist. I still see her. She's amazing, and I found her because she specialized in HSP people. So I was like, I knew I needed to find someone that knew what the heck that was and could understand what it's like to live like that. So that's how I found her, and it was through her that I got my, like, it's an accomplishment, my depression diagnosis. And I remember feeling very like mixed feelings about it, because I had known for a long time that I probably was depressed, and that I was just dealing with all of these feelings and they didn't make sense to me and I didn't know why they were happening. But then like seeing it on paper and like seeing the clinical diagnosis, like I remember it being like really heavy on me, because it felt like there was something wrong with me and that this was just like part of who I was. It's like, oh, you have depression. It felt very, I don't know, like permanent. Like it's just like, this is part of who you are now. And I didn't like that. But at the same time, it also helped because I felt like I finally had an answer. I finally had like a reason as to why I was feeling the way that I was. And that helped give me clarity and also direction on like how to handle it. So like, it goes both ways. I think it's good to get a diagnosis sometimes, but on the flip side, I also feel like it can become part of your identity, which I think is a slippery slope. So yeah, let's go ahead and talk about that. We talked about in middle school the day I claimed being depressed as part of who I was, and then getting this diagnosis kind of like further cemented that. The problem is when you accept something as your identity, it becomes almost impossible to let it go, because you have like tethered your perception of yourself to this thing, to depression. So then it's like the question becomes, who am I if I'm not depressed? And that was something that I struggled with for a while. I was so used to being depressed that I literally did not know who I was without it. And I personally believe that as long as you identify with your mental illness, you will not heal from it, because it's become a part of who you are. And changing your identity and changing who you are is very scary. I actually had a moment one day where I felt like I had done a lot of work, done the therapy, the shadow work, all of that, and healed my depression. And there was a day that I was like, I miss being depressed. Like, what? Like, that moment woke me up, because it made me realize that at a certain point, my depression became like an unconscious behavior, and I was subconsciously choosing things, thinking things, building habits that were supporting the idea that I was depressed. So it got to the point where like when I had healed from it, I was like, oh, I miss that, because like it was familiar. And that's the slippery slope. Is unfortunately our nervous system loves familiarity, and anything that's unfamiliar feels like a threat simply because it's unknown and we don't know if it's safe or not. Even if like consciously we know it might be a safer situation, safer idea, whatever, your nervous system doesn't know that. So the thought of not being depressed anymore feels like a threat, because then it's, who am I? How do I handle that? I don't know what that feels like. That's scary. And I realized that when I had this thought that day that like, oh, I miss being depressed. It was like I missed the old version of me because it was familiar, because it was comfortable. So it's a lot easier to stay there than it is to let go of that identity and become someone else. So for me, a lot of like the unlearning and letting go of my depression was realizing that it wasn't part of who I was, it was something I was experiencing. So the way I was able to kind of work through that was to change my mindset. Again, I remember a day feeling super down on myself, having a full-on mental breakdown with the negative thoughts, the negative self-talk, and I realized like, you know what, girl, like thinking like this for the past like 10 years has not gotten you to where you want to be. So like, maybe, here's a thought, let's just try something different and see what happens, because clearly it has not been working. So let's just try something else. Let's try saying nice things to ourselves. So then I started practicing self-neutrality, which is essentially having a negative thought. You bring awareness to the thought. You're like, okay, I'm having this bad thought. I don't want to have this thought. So you stop having the thought, which takes practice. And then once you get the hang of that, you replace your negative thought with a neutral thought. So instead of saying like, oh, I hate my body, or like, I'm such a loser, or I'm a failure, you just say, you notice the thought, okay, take the thought, you stop it, you stop the thought spiral, and then you replace it with a neutral thought. I have a body. I'm a human. The most neutral you can get. And let me tell you, after a while, because it takes a while, it takes practice, But after a while of practicing that, I just noticed one day, like, I haven't had a mean thought about myself. Like, it was like mind-blowing to me. And I learned after the fact that there's actually a name for that, and it's called neuroplasticity, which is just your mind's ability to like rewire certain patterns. And the more you do the pattern, the more you reinforce that pattern. So that can be a positive or a negative thing. So in terms of like the self-talk, if you're constantly saying negative things about yourself, every time you do that, you're reinforcing this neural pathway to have negative thoughts about yourself. So by practicing interrupting that negative thought and then replacing it with a new one, you're literally rewiring your brain to stop going down the negative path and to start going down more positive thoughts and mindsets. And again, every time you do that, you're reinforcing that pathway. So the more you practice, it's like working out, like doing reps at the gym. Yeah, the more bicep curls you do, the stronger your biceps are going to be. The more you practice having positive thoughts about yourself or neutral ones, the more you're training your brain to do that on its own. So that is like huge tip from me if you're dealing with negative thoughts, negative self-talk. Try replacing it with something neutral. And the more you practice, the less you have to think about it, and it just becomes neutral. Like now, like you guys, I wish I could express to you how bad my negative self-talk was. Like it was literally a constant narrative of, you suck, you're the worst, nobody likes you, I hate my life, I'm such a failure, like constant. And now, like I rarely have thoughts like that. Rarely. And if I do, I am immediately like, ew, like what is that? You don't belong here, get out. So it just takes practice, but that is like my number one tip if you're struggling with depression, is to rewire the mindset and the negative self-talk into something positive. It's possible. I am living proof of that. So around the same time that I had that realization and started rewiring my mind, I was healing from said religious trauma that I mentioned earlier, and kind of diving deeper into my spirituality and like energy work. And that's when I realized that my depression was a symptom of something deeper. So let's talk about that. This might be controversial, so I'm just gonna put that disclaimer out there. I personally believe that depression is not a diagnosis, and it's not like the end all be all. Your depression is a symptom or a manifestation of something deeper going on inside of you. Because it's not just, I'm depressed because I'm depressed. Like, there's a reason. For me, I feel like depression really stems from being disconnected from your soul, your higher self, your true authentic self, because we as humans, I think, are meant to express ourselves, and when you feel like that expression is being repressed, it turns into depression. And it's almost like your body is like rebelling against you. It starts to shut down when you can't express. You're like blocking this channel of expression for whatever reason, and it might be because you don't feel safe to express yourself, you don't know how to, like you're in an environment where it's not safe to do. So then you just like bottle it up inside and internalize it and make it something about you versus something about your external circumstances, you know? So I realized this, and once I started addressing the spiritual side of things, the energy side of things, I slowly started to heal. Like, yes, the self-neutrality really helped me, but I feel like the missing link for me was like the spiritual side of it, because I think we all have a soul. We are all souls experiencing life, human experience. And when we can't fully express our true authentic self, we get depressed, because it's almost like we're playing this character versus being who we truly are. So it's like, I don't know, you become a shell of yourself. You become this like watered down version of who you really want to be. in order to stay safe, because depression really is just disconnection from your soul. It's disconnection from joy, from fulfillment, from self-love, from just being happy and experiencing life in a positive way. When you're depressed, it's like this dark cloud that's like constantly looming over you, like skewing your view of the world. And I think by connecting to your higher self, connecting to God, to source, whatever your version of that is, the fog gets lifted because you finally see and feel that connection to source, that love, that joy. And I don't know, like it's hard to explain. Like it sounds super easy and just like, yeah, you just have to like believe and like connect to your higher self and everything will be fine. Like, I don't want it to sound like that because I know it's not that simple, or it's not that easy, I should say. And when you're in it, like it's so hard to even imagine that life can be better and that there is like positivity out there, that there is hope. Like it's so hard to even fathom that. But I really feel like by practicing connecting to your soul, your authentic self, like it just alleviates the fog and the cloud from your mind. I did this through Reiki and meditation. Of course, you know, do what resonates with you, but meditation helped me a lot early on in my healing journey with depression. I feel like I kind of originally did it for anxiety, but really it helped more with my depression because it allowed me to connect to source energy. And Reiki too is literally universal life force energy. And when you connect to that, like it heals your body, not only on a physical level, but also a spiritual level. And that's something that it really helped me a lot. And I don't want you to feel like I'm like pushing that on you. I'm just sharing what worked for me and what my journey was. You know, take what resonates and explore like what resonates with you. But for me, that like spiritual, energetic side of it really was like the missing link. And I feel like through my religious trauma and all of that experience, it really disconnected me from my soul and myself. And I started lying to myself a lot about like what I wanted and who I wanted to be and what I believed. And like every time you do that, you're disconnecting from yourself. So another important aspect of healing from mental illness is learning to build your self-trust and your self-worth. And this goes kind of both ways with depression and anxiety. And it sounds kind of stupid, honestly. Like it sounds like, how is that gonna help me? But okay, just hear me out. Especially with, okay, we'll start with the depression side of it. So when you trust yourself and who you are, you're no longer pretending to be someone else, to try and fit in, to try and fit this mold, to try and be who other people want you to be, because you know that like who you are is enough and who you are is worthy, and that's all that matters. In a way, it also helps you to build that self-love because you're like, you know, I trust that what I want is valid. I trust that I know who I am. I trust that who I am is enough, and it doesn't matter what society says, what other people say, because I trust myself and I know that that's all I need to show up in the world and be myself. In that sense, it really helps with the depression and just connecting to yourself. It's so powerful, you guys, so powerful. On the anxiety side of things, really what anxiety is lack of self-trust. Partially. There's another piece to that. We'll get there in a second. But really at the root, it's lack of self-trust because you're constantly imagining these like scenarios that have never happened and like how you would act and like what would you do and what would you say? Oh, but what if this happens? And then you just start to spiral. The reason it causes anxiety is because you don't trust that you would be able to handle whatever comes up. So by practicing self-trust, building self-trust, the anxiety slowly diminishes because You can say, oh, I may not know what's gonna happen tomorrow. I may not know what so-and-so is gonna say to me in this situation, but I trust that I have the skills, the abilities to handle whatever comes my way. And again, it doesn't happen overnight, but the way you can start to build that self-trust is through small little things every day, keeping small promises to yourself, like saying, oh, I'm gonna post this thing on Instagram tomorrow, and then like actually doing it. That's a self-trust point. You just gained a little self-trust. Or by saying like, I'm gonna speak up if someone says this to me, and then you actually do it. You built that self-trust. Or saying like, I'm gonna work out 2 days a week, and then you do it. You built that self-trust. And over time, because you can trust yourself with the smaller things, you start to be able to trust yourself with the bigger things too. And this is another one of those things, just like the neuroplasticity, that it just takes repetition. The more reps you do it, the more natural it becomes, the less you have to think about it. And then when the bigger things happen and come up in your life, you can say, okay, like I may not know the outcome, but I trust that I can handle whatever happens. The other piece to anxiety that I wanted to mention, anxiety also, again, personal opinion, I think is creativity that has nowhere to go. So just look at like every famous artist, like they were, you know, a little troubled, right? A lot of them dealt with mental illness and anxiety, and they're like the most creative people in the world, right? Because anxiety is really just your mind like making up scenarios and making up ideas and things that may never happen. To reframe it, it's like you gotta be really creative to do that. Like, it takes a lot of creativity to come up with some of the crazy ideas and scenarios that those of us who struggle with anxiety come up with, right? So you can take that energy and put it into something creative, then you have less anxiety roaming around in your mind trying to make up crazy scenarios that are never gonna happen. This is my personal theory why women love crafting, because we're naturally like more anxious. So we instead just channel that energy into our crafting. So I definitely am a very creative person, and I feel like when I have a creative project going where I have somewhere to focus my energy, the anxiety is a lot quieter because it's the same energy, I'm just putting it towards something else. Like the way I see it is that energy is gonna be there no matter what. So if I give that energy somewhere to go, if I give it a job, then it's not going to create something on its own, you know? So that's a lot. I hope you guys are still with me. So that's kind of been my experience, my journey thus far, and I feel like I'm really in a much better place now. Like it's literally night and day. And I want to also talk a little bit about what it's like on the other side of it. A lot of us think that like once we finally heal from this, it's just gonna be like sunshine and rainbows and everything is magically gonna be better and we're like fully healed and we never have to worry about it ever again. And unfortunately, that's not really the case. So first of all, healing is not linear. You're gonna have good days and you're gonna have bad days, and that's just part of the journey. And when you accept that, the healing journey becomes a lot easier. There's a lot less resistance, because then you know, like every time you have a bad day, it's not just like, oh my gosh, I'm completely spiraling and failing and all the work I've done was for nothing. Like, no, we're gonna fluctuate, we're gonna have ups and downs, and that's totally normal. And you will find over time that the low days become less low and the high days become a little bit higher. So you just have to have patience, trust the ebbs and flows, trust that you're on the right path. Like as long as you're choosing to better yourself and try to replace your negative thoughts, replace your negative habits, like you're on the right track, and you just need to trust that. Something that a lot of people don't talk about though is the grief that happens on the other side of healing. This was something that kind of surprised me when I really started healing and got like on the other side of it. There was a period of grief. The grief for me was grieving a life that I didn't have, that I couldn't live. And it sounds weird, hear me out. When you are all consumed by mental illness, for me especially the depression, it really like takes away a lot of the years of your life, in the sense that there was so much joy, so many memories, so many experiences that I couldn't have because I was so weighed down by my depression. You just like look back at your life and think like, what would my experience have been like had I not been dealing with this? It would have been so much more positive. I'd have so many more positive memories to look back on. And like that requires grief to process. And especially if it's something you have struggled with for a long time, it's like, yeah, that's a lot of years of your life that you in a way lost to your mental illness. And that's just the reality. And I feel like nobody talks about that. Like I was very surprised when these feelings started coming up in my journey of like, wait a minute, why am I sad again? Like, what is happening? I think it's important to know that that is valid, to feel that way, and to just give yourself the space to process and to grieve the life that you didn't get to live, that you thought you would live, but unfortunately you didn't because of what you were dealing with. And it's not your fault. It's just how things played out. For me, in a weird way, been something I'm thankful for is, you know, the grief and like what I experienced with my mental illnesses. It's made me really thankful for my life now and really try to intentionally live my life to the fullest, because I'm gonna try not to cry. There was a point in my life where I did not think I would be here today, if you catch my drift. So to be alive now and living my life and like living out some of my dreams is crazy to me, because there was a point in my life where I could not picture being 30 years old and married and having my own business and being an instructor and all of these things. Like I could not see that far into the future. To me, like it didn't exist. In a weird way, I'm thankful for what I experienced throughout my mental illnesses, because it's made me so thankful for what I have today and encourage me to live my life intentionally. And in a way, it's like I'm doing that for my past self. Like the years that I lost in my past, in my childhood, to depression, like I get to make up for that now. It's easy to get stuck in the grief and just be like, and like be angry about it, which is valid. Like I definitely went through a phase of just being like, oh, why did this happen? It's so unfair. Oh my gosh. That's valid. Allow yourself to go through that, but don't get stuck there, because it's easy to just get stuck in that energy and that mindset, and then you're just wasting your life that's in front of you now. Like if you're on the other side of it, you don't want to waste any more years being angry about what happened, because then you're taking away the life that you have now. So for me, it's allowed me to live my life now for my past self, like past Caitlin, little like elementary school, middle school Caitlin. All the things I do now are for her. I'm gonna try not to cry. And that's what's really beautiful about this journey of life and healing, is like you always have the opportunity to start over. Like you are the creator of your life. You get to decide how you want to live and how you want to use your past experiences. Do you want to stay stuck in the past and angry and be a victim to what you experienced, or do you want to take that and use it to form a more positive future and current reality? Like that's up to you. You know, my personal journey has really taught me that yeah, you can either be a victim to your circumstances and the things you experienced, or you can decide and claim that you want something different. And I hope you guys get that from this video, that it doesn't have to be like that forever. It's not who you are. It's not part of your identity. It's just something you are experiencing. It sucks. It sucks. And like, it's important to address that yes, it does suck, but it doesn't have to be like that forever. And you get to decide and you get to change. You get to create the life that you want and that you deserve. You are worthy, you are loved, you are not alone, and I hope you always remember that. So, my loves, thank you for listening. Thank you for chatting with me. That's all I have to share for now. Please leave a comment. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm always here to support you and uplift you guys. And that is really what my page and my channel is all about, is giving you guys the tools and resources to help support you. And if you feel like you need even more support, you can check out my membership. I feel kind of weird like promoting this on this video, but it's literally the whole reason I made my membership was to share the tools that I learned on my healing journey so that they can help you too. Because truly, like, I swear by what I teach and what I put in this membership, like, they are the exact tools that I use and continue to use on my healing journey to get to where I am today. So feel free to check that out. I'll put the link in the description. Let me know if you want to see more videos like this, what other topics you would like me to cover. I'm sending you all so much love, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!